Hi, thanks for joining me for a little rest for resistance. So, we're going to get ourselves to the floor. If you're not there already, I'm joining you. Then go ahead and get lying on your back with your knees bent so that your feet are resting flat on the ground. And you're going to get some books under your head. If I'm being honest, have a couple of coasters stacked on top of each other, and that is my head support for the moment. If it's uncomfortable to have something like coasters or books under your head, if that feels a little sensitive, feel free to layer a towel on top of the books under your head so that you have a little bit of a softer support, but it is important to have the firmness of books rather than a pillow under your head. So you have the firmness of the floor at your back and the books under your head and the floor at your feet as both of your knees are bent. Go ahead and rest if they're not already. Rest your hands somewhere on your torso, your belly, your hips, higher on your chest, wherever is most comfortable. You are welcome to rest your hands on your sides if that's your preference, but I prefer to rest my hands on my torso. And as you settle in, start to really feel the support of the floor. For these next few minutes, you are no longer required to hold yourself up. The number one job of the neuromuscular system is to keep the head from hitting the ground. And that's a really important job. So when you take that responsibility off of your list by giving yourself the gift of having a nice lie down on the floor, it's a real opportunity to let go of excess tension, to work with gravity in a new way, in a new orientation, as you really allow yourself to be supported by the floor. Imagine the floor coming up to meet you. Meeting you at many points of contact, not just the whole of your back, but each of your pelvic halves, your elbows resting somewhere on the ground, your head on the books, and both of your feet flat on the ground. And you can close your eyes if you'd like, but if you're not going to bed soon, if you're just taking a little rest and trying to find a little more energy, a little calm, I would encourage you to keep your eyes open, which is a little bit of a challenge. It is, to quiet down and pay attention to yourself, to your internal world, your physical sensations, while still being present in the room. Looking at the ceiling and seeing the room around you with your peripheral vision. Allow yourself to really rest here for a moment. And as you are resting, we're not quite relaxing in a way where we're letting everything go. We're relaxing in a way that encourages some release. And so you can offer yourself a wish. Specifically, I would encourage you to think of this wish. I wish my neck to be free. I wish my neck to be even just a little more free than it was a moment ago. And I wish my neck to be a little more free so that my head may release a bit more off the top of my spine, so that my back can lengthen and widen and my knees can release away from my hips. And if you're someone who likes to visualize and has a strong kind of visual imagination, you can really go with that as you imagine some lines of force, some up and down, some diagonals through you, as you think of your head releasing away from your tail. You can imagine headlights on each kneecap shining towards where the wall meets the ceiling, so that your legs more easily release away from your hips resting, your legs, your knees specifically releasing away from your pelvis, resting on the ground, and your knees releasing a little bit away from each other so they're not knocking together but not falling out to the sides either. As you really think your knees away, you might notice it's a little easier to keep the legs bent and the legs still a little active, not fully extended, as you would if you were taking a little nap. And you can also visualize laser light beams out your fingertips in opposition to your elbows resting on the ground. That there's a release that you can imagine goes beyond your physical. Notice if you're trying to muscle through or really do any of these visualizations and directions. Are you accidentally pushing into the support of the floor, trying to force some widening? And can you let a little bit of that go and instead allow yourself to be supported? Trust the ground is there and coming up to meet you, that you can allow gravity to help you find some widening between your ears, through your neck, your shoulders, arms, elbows, torso, pelvis, legs, and each of your feet. That we never want to sacrifice our widening for more length, or our length for the sake of widening. Preferring instead to find a balance of lengthening and widening that helps us feel more balanced and more free. And if you have more time and this is feeling good, stay here for another few minutes. Maybe give yourself the opportunity to gently move the knees together, just slightly to one side and then the other. Not a big swing, but a gentle small movement so you can discover what's going on in you. If you stay here for longer, I encourage you to play with letting one leg out long and then the other. But I do encourage you to keep at least one leg bent at all times. But for those who only really plan to be here for 10 minutes, we're going to make our way up to upright. Notice any resistance to now needing to move. Did anything grab in the hips or the shoulders, the neck that you don't need? Notice the anticipation. Send it away, send it through, head away from tail, back lengthening and widening, fingertips away from elbows, knees from hips. And as you do so, go ahead and bring one foot closer to the other so that you can more easily let your knees drop to one side, and at the same time reach one arm up on the side that you're turning to, and then let the other arm cross over your body so you can more easily roll onto your side, and you can use your hands to push yourself into upright to find your seat. Take your time to be here seated upright for a moment. Eventually then coming to a little more tabletop, so you're on hands and knees. If you're close to a chair or a table, you can use that to put your hands on to assist you coming onto your feet. When you get onto both of your feet, take a moment to let standing be a little different. That might sound silly, but play with the idea. Do you have some preconceptions about what standing has to be? Do you have to pull yourself up? Do you have to tighten in your legs? Is there less that you need to be upright now that you remember what it's like to have so much support at your back? Can you still feel the floor at your back even as you are on both your feet? Thank you so much for being here with me. Give yourself a nice pat on the back for taking some time for yourself. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Take care.